there's reporting, there's demands going on all the time. Knowing how to plan, knowing how to go from point A to point B, knowing various methods for project management, and ultimately also, and I think this is probably one of the more difficult ones, it's just around how to build a business case for change, right? How do you know what the measures are? What does success look like? And how do you get all those people behind you that you need to do it? So my these are sort of my 5 main observations in terms of skills or maybe mindsets, not only for the future, but I think already for today, if I'm honest. So those are my thoughts on this topic.
I completely agree, from the point of view what Mr. Andres is saying, and I will pick up from the point where he said it is not only to understand about the data. For example, I want to know something from this particular data, so Vinod want to know, that's all. So it's a personalized query. So I don't want, I have a lot of data, but how to get that particular data which is solving my query. So no, that was, I'm sure we all are aware, no, industry, today we are talking about industry 4, we are moving for industry 5. And industry 1 was the time when we used to look for the competency. I need a manager who is good enough to understand the electricity. That was the requirement. And that was the requirement because if you don't know how this electricity is working, maybe the manufacturing will stop and production is stop and you are not in the market. But today, when we are moving from industry 1, 2, 3, and 4, today it is a requirement for my manager, for my new hiring, maybe, the people need to understand the data. If they are able to understand the data, they can quickly respond to the multiple maybe challenges or upcoming thing, and in a very meaningful way. So this particular point, what Mr. Andreas, you are saying, completely agree. And I think for this, we have many titles available in the market where people keep on applying for, keep on listing: data scientists, data designers, security analyst. So there are multiple job verticals which are around to this particular data. So this particular thing, what you said, completely agree on this point, and the competency which are required to understand the data in a more personalized way. I'm working on Amity. I need to understand this particular data from the Amity point of view. Andres is working on Alphatam. Andres want to understand the data from the Alphatam point of view. That is all. So this personalized view of understanding this data is actually very critical, and it is very much required. The safety, cyber safety, because the moment we say data today, majority of the data somewhere is into cloud. Somewhere it is available into some sort of online platform. So I think when we are discussing here about this particular future challenges of the job market, because majority of the audience into this particular Zoom webinar are the students who want to know from your expert point of view what can be the future challenges for which I need to get ready. So we got the few insight from here. I think the cyber safety or data breach to address this thing also can be one of the very critical thing to opt for the student, where they can look forward for their career. Would you like to contribute anything into this particular dimension? David, can we go ahead with you?
Yeah, I was just like, something really crossed my mind when you were talking about data. Think about this happening right now in the world with COVID. I know a lot of companies that have worked and are working in the space of data around COVID. But try to imagine yourself, if we wouldn't have the data around COVID, how would we deal with it? I'm sure that millions and millions of more people would have probably died from COVID, because the decisions made by the leaders of the different governments is purely data driven. And then the second part, and it's also kind of like supports the point that I was making earlier, is like to have context when you have the data. Like, yes, we see numbers going up and down when it comes to COVID. You see reduction of people that currently actively have COVID with an increase. But if you don't have, and then you hear, for example, today, I got a few people approaching me and saying, like, what do you think about the first shot that might be required for the Sinopharm vaccine? If you don't have any contextual knowledge, you have troubles understanding the data. And without data, you cannot make a sound decision, and the impact will be more. So this is also the point where you see the data is everywhere and extremely important. if we wouldn't have data, we probably, yeah, I think we wouldn't have known how to address a crisis like COVID. Still, we don't know, because we're still suffering from it, but it will be worse. I'm pretty sure. No.
Right. Cyber safety and data, being as a data scientist, information security analyst, I think this can be also one of the particular vertical where the student can look forward. If you remember, 2018, I guess, was the time when the major leak happened for the Facebook Cambridge Analytica. And what I'm trying to communicate here is, no, there is a direct relation between the cyber and the stock market. So money is directly involved here. So basically, if you see the US stock market 2018, when this leak happened, Facebook, Cambridge Analytica, if you see the report, immediately all the product which was cyber related, the prices gone up. And for the next 3 years, the prices was on the top. And if you remember, and there are so many cases are available which we can find a direct relation between the money and the cyber safety, which is directly, there is no need to, if you remember 2020 January, I guess, when there was some, due to some mistake, I'm using a word mistake because it's a political issue, something, some missile attack happened in the Iran and some major general was, so, and Iran is supposed to be one of the very strong into the cyber. And there was a speculation into the world market, something may happen. And immediately, if you see the stock market again, immediately the cyber product which are listed, they again started shooting up. So, and there are many examples. Athens is the example, 2015, where a lot of insurance data got leaked. April 2020, last year, Zoom data got leaked, and immediately. So we have many relations which are available, and time to come. What Mr. David was saying, yes, the cyber related data is one part, understanding data is one thing. So the student maybe who are listening here, so we got the many insight basically from this discussion. Data is one thing, managing the data, understanding the data from a particular one context is one particular thing. But the moment we come to the network security and data security, that is again a total different kind of dimension where they can also look forward for our career. And these are again a kind of course, they are independent vertical, but something which are connected together. So I would like to add here one more point. Amity is also offering many technological program related to information technology and BTech computer science, where we talk about data science and we start discussing IoT kind of thing immediately from the semester 4, so that it is not, you are not a new person when you are moving out in the market and people are talking about you to do some analysis and you don't understand sensors. And sensors are the basic, sensor became the fundamental today. Sensor is no more technology. We will talk about futuristic. It is very much available next to me in next market. So we start preparing them to how to understand the sensor, how to get the real-time data. What Mr. Andres was saying in the earlier statement, how to understand the data which is coming on the real time and how to analyze this data from my point of view, personalized point of view. That is something which is very much important. One more statement is there by Accenture, and Accenture has posted something related to financial services. And I'm picking up this statement from Mr. Andreas' statement where he was talking about the financial vertical also. Approximately 2025, as per the Accenture, they have posted a report, 75% of the workforce is going to be millennials. And millennials has a different challenge when we talk about the office work culture. So in this dimension, would you like to comment something from them, our students, they can understand something, because they, of course, they are the millennial, they are going to be the part of this workforce very soon. So anything on the soft skill maybe, or any other thing?
Sure. Well, I think that's a very interesting topic, and certainly something that many HR organizations are very busy with. And I know David's one of them, right? So how do you sort of try to understand and contextualize the different demands of the different generations that will all be in the workforce all at the same time? And there's talk about all these generations and all these different demands. I think one of the biggest shocks very often is, at least from my experience and some of the companies that I've been in, is that in the sort of digital readiness and the ability for many organizations to meet the digital demands of the younger generations in real time, in real life, while they're doing their work, will probably be a bit of a barrier in some cases. And there was already discussions around this when I sort of started getting into work, where you sort of step back in time with about 10 years, because the technology I have on my phone at work or the laptop I have at work is a lot older than the one I have at home, as an example. And I think that's one of the things that is something to be mindful of. I think another point is, and I think it ties nicely back to this point around data security and data privacy and data protection, that many, and at least from my understanding, younger generations are very freely sharing data and information and knowledge. And that, again, might not be exactly the same that you might experience in the workplace, where there are policies, where there are procedures, and where there's maybe a very different view on data as a commodity per se. So I think technology expectations and data expectations will be quite different when you actually enter the workforce.
Yeah. And you're definitely right. By the way, we have our third panelist joining as well, so it's good to get his view too.
Yeah.
Mohammed Alian, welcome to this panel. Welcome to Amity. And we have given your brief introduction to all the audience, and we all are eagerly waiting you to participate in the discussion. And of course, the very first thing before I take the conversation of Mr. Andreas, we would like to know your views. Basically, the audience is they are students, and they are the workforce of future. And the whole idea of this particular session is if we can provide certain insight so that they can get ready for the future job market. Although Amity is already offering so many latest kind of program where we are helping them, but still it is always good to take the insight from the people who are working in the industry. Sir, over to you, Alian.
Thank you so much. And again, I apologize for being late. I've been in like a previously arranged commitment, but it's always a great pleasure to me to meet Amity University. Thank you guys for the value you add to our community. I'm happy that I always chase Amity University students to join our company whenever I have the chance, and I had the honor to work with them with our internship program, which the last few years, and I'm so happy with the results. The only thing I would like to say is I know that those students are very intelligent. I know that they're so eager to join the workforce, and I'm so sure they will be productive. The only thing they need is just to trim some stuff and advance some skills to be ready for the workforce. The biggest advice I always give them is to look for their intuitive intelligence and work greatly and developing their career around their intuitive intelligence. Every one of us as human beings is gifted by his thing, like things that he can do much better than anyone else. Every one of us is very intelligent. We have components in our self-being that will help us become either great business people or amazing technical team or great developers and stuff like that. That we only need to work on finding out what really represents us and build our career around it. I do believe that the first 2 years of your career are exactly like the first 2 years of your life. You walk and fall and you walk and fall and you touch hot things and you learn that you should not touch them anymore. That's what you'll have to live these experiences, happy or sad, but you cannot imagine what value it will add to your career. Definitely chase what the market is demanding. Every region has its own dynamics that you should understand. You want to be a successful person, and part of what makes you successful is having a good job. And part of what makes you have a good job is to be equipped for that job. And once and part of how you become equipped for that job is to know what the market demands. We're definitely different than the US and Europe. We have our own dynamics here that you need to live with. The last thing before I leave it back to you guys is that if you do believe that you have great ideas, that those young people are amazingly intelligent, you may want to also consider some entrepreneurship. My generation and some older generations, we got stuck with stuff such as IOT, blockchain. We know the technology, but maybe we're not brilliant enough to come up with use cases. While those young kids, they can just, just throw it into their mobile phones and come up with something new that will change the world. You never know that what would happen. You've seen guys such as the ones that delivered applications that such as Zomato or Deliverco, or those guys are no different than any one of our attendees today, the students that are attending our webinar. If you manage to become a good entrepreneur, you will be the next Steve Jobs of the Middle East. I'll be happy to see you there. That's it. So I'll leave it to you, Dr. Binadia.
Thank you so much. I think I should also update this thing. The audience which is here into this webinar, they are from Amity, and they are from the various schools also. So basically, it's a mixed audience, and Amity always believe to educate the following students who are going to part of the higher education and post who are going to part of the workforce. So this particular discussion is also to help those younger mind to understand might be what can be the future challenges can be. So of course, entrepreneurial skill is very much required, and I completely agree. Yes, why not Steve Jobs can be the next Steve Jobs is possible from the Middle East, from this country, from this university. We have, I'm just trying to complete the statement of Mr. Muhammad Ali and what he was saying at the end. So we have the family business program where the entire focus for the 3 years of this education is only this particular one theme. And we ensure with the various component, various teaching methodology, various cases, how exactly we can move forward into this particular domain. Not only this particular program, we do also have the complete established independent incubation center. Like I remember your internship program. I remember Mr. Muhammad Alian always used to encourage the student, if you have any idea, come to us. And that is truly demonstrate your own passion, how exactly you are connected with the student. Amity also has an incubation center where we continuously motivate them, and we are working with the many new ideas which are registered with the many organizations where the students are working with their new initiatives. So yes, we are very much into this, and the school student, I'm sure they will be getting benefit from the kind of discussion which is happening now. Before we go for the next thing, there is a question I will request Mr. David if he can answer for this thing, because I remember your last session, robotic interview and robotic video CV, and Mr. David, you will not believe, till today, whenever I talk to my student, they somehow refer that particular discussion. And I do remember that was a completely non-traditional kind of approach, because still, despite of having so much technological advancement and automation, people are still following the same traditional approach for the job market. And that particular session, what you did, that was completely different. So the question here is how robotics and artificial intelligence can be incorporated in space mission, like detecting the space, many equipment and many parts. So there is any possibility which the robotics and the AI can be the part of artificial, the space or something? Because you are the person who is dealing very much with the robotics. I'm sure somewhere you have touched upon this particular vertical also.
Yes, and actually in an interesting way. So at G42, I always told my team, like, each week I tell you something that you don't know about G42. G42, just to explain to the students, is a company that has grown out of the Middle East and is in AI, clouds, and health care. So even the vaccination via Sinopharm, G42 is behind that. And one of my team members said, soon you will tell us that we're going into space. And I was laughing the next week, because yes, indeed, we're using data science and kind of like analytics to analyze space data. So you spoke earlier about IoT. That's devices collecting data, sending it in kind of like sending it into a larger data lake or whatever it is. I think that's going to be the future. I mean, in that sense, yes. Robotics, if I can translate that now, because it's not fully the same as IoT, collecting data, doing something with the data in space, yes, it will become extremely important. And the Mohammed bin Zayed University for AI is working on that. ADNOC is investing into it. So it's absolutely a very, very important topic.
Okay. Mr. Andreas, I just, there is one more question which is coming up, and the question is, as a completely new talent, just passing out maybe the class of 2021, or maybe he is going to join the job market in 2022, 2023, because you are leading a vertical of HR, what general competencies you look forward, what attitude you look, when a student is coming for, as a fresh talent, for maybe the general competencies?
Oh, that's a very good question, right? And I think it varies greatly across many different organizations, and depending on the kind of job you're kind of in the market for. But I think ultimately your ability to have the right set of motivations and the right set of drive for a particular job, I think will, especially as a fresh talent coming into the marketplace, I think to me, and from my experience, is still the most critical one, right? What are your motivations? What are you looking to do? And is there a fit for the company now and into the future? I think that's one. I think secondly, what are the things you have done whilst you were studying, for example? Have you accumulated other kind of experiences, and have you shown a level of maturity even before you're going into the workforce? I think that's another thing that I personally find really important. And then thirdly, like some of the topics I talked about before, right? What is the person's ability to change and assimilate and adapt into a new organization as quickly as possible? So maybe a sense of humility, maybe a sense of change management, and yeah. So I think it's a consultant type answer. It depends, but I think it's those 3 or 4 things that are really important to me, and they're because the skill set, learning how to do accounting or learning how to do HR, the topic of HR you can learn, the topic of finance you can learn, but your mindset is probably more difficult, right? That's a bigger challenge.
Even Mr. Muhammad Alian was also putting the similar thing in the initial opening remark, what he just said. And because majority of the students are from the schools, one more point, I would like to contribute with the connected discussion of Mr. Andreas. Into undergrad and postgrad, apart from teaching what he just said, you can teach HR practices, you can teach financial, so many things, but your mind need to adapt, and you need to understand how you are going to react in those situations. So apart from those practices of maybe HR, maybe marketing, maybe technical things, it is equally important to train the young mind to tell them how to behave into the different behavioral aspect, and how to train them into the different communication aspects. So we may have a different, UA is a perfect example to talk about the multicultural, multi-communication, multi-language platform. And it is very important for the student to understand what and how to adopt the new thing. Amity,
yes, sorry to interrupt, because you brought on a very good point, and part of my team members, so I manage a team of about 20 people at the moment, and many of them have been within the organization for a very long time, and they're all very good at the what, They're all very good at their profession and they're all very good at executing work. But some of them, and I consistently talked about the how stuff gets done. How do you interact with your colleagues? How do you learn new things and how do you adapt to new things? Is certainly one of the, and I almost rate the what and the how almost as important when we do performance evaluations or, you know, career progression discussions. So I fully concur with what you're saying there. Fully concur.
So I was just completing this thing, and what you are saying, we are able to see the different diversification into the student set and the various workforce we can see. And the beautiful example, of course, this particular country itself is to address this particular, I would say, challenge. What Amity do from into any undergrad program, into any postgrad program, we have two compulsory subjects which are there. One to address only the behavioral aspect. And we start talking about self-effectiveness, stress management, time management, the big thing what Mr. Andreas has said, the change management itself. And we do take it very serious. No, whatever knowledge you have, whatever the best person you, but you are not able to communicate. It is again a big barrier. So we do take this communication as a very important thing into any kind of program. So these two vertical of behavioral science, and when you talk about the business communication, they go parallel into any program. So it is not only a person who is moving out after the completion of his or her undergrad or postgrad, he is capable enough to address the market need on the different dimension also. He is expert, he know about the things, but he is able to communicate, he is able to respect, he is able to adapt the things which are there into the current market. I have a question here which is coming up. May I request Mr. Mohammed Alian to maybe to address this? How we can ensure the communication effectiveness in robotics terms? Maybe I will request David also to answer this later on. So how exactly we can, in robotics terms, we can say, ensure the communication effectiveness?
If I start with the term communication effectiveness is crucial to your success. And it means that you manage to communicate with the minimum number of words. You don't have to be articulated to start with. I don't. If I get an email message that has 3 paragraphs, each one of them has like 10 lines, that overwhelms myself. So if you manage with the minimum number of words, as simple as you can, of course, the hero was Steve Jobs in summarizing his message. If you can manage to summarize your message and keep the simplest communication, you will be given a magic stick from God that's called the success stick. There's nothing that touches the hearts and minds as simple communication. Whether it's in robotics or is in a human-to-human communication, it's very effective. And before I move it to David, first of all, guys, it's a step that you have to take in your life. You're graduating. Now you're moving from the service lane to the highway. And the moment you get in there, everyone goes so fast and life is so different and, dynamics are so different. Your personal skills, including communication skills, are at the center of your success. Get rid of your anxiety, calm down, accept that it's a different environment. It could be different culture, different languages and all of that. Accept that and start absorbing. Calm down without any anxiety and start learning. Learn about the culture. One day you will contribute to that culture. That culture in any organization represented by their values, their processes, their best practices, how they do things, how do they collaborate, how they do their 5-minute stand-up meetings in the morning to fix problems. All of this defines culture. Learn it, engage with it smoothly, quietly, just get into the system, just engage with the system easily. One day you will contribute, you will add value to that culture. Culture is built up by people. It's not something that you can download from Google. It's not document with ink on paper. So get rid of that. Don't worry. It's been tough times, especially after 2020, but it's reshaping the workforce. And believe me, guys, I see a great opportunity for you in that. You're fresh talent. You've got fresh talent, and you will witness a great change in the workforce in our region, actually in the world, the way things are done. And you're ready for that. You're equipped with that. Don't be worried. You're equipped. Just tiny little skills that you have to add to the way you communicate and you engage, and you will succeed. David, please go ahead. You're the expert.
Yeah, no, I really like your conversation. I just want to add something to it, Mohammed. First of all, on the communication part on how to communicate with chatbots, I fully agree. Make it easy, because we're actually talking about chatbots and virtual assistants. So I think most of the students have probably a smartphone, Android or Apple or even Huawei. They all have these virtual assistants. You will know very quickly, the simpler you communicate, the more effective it is. And actually, somebody was asking about bio-inspired robots can be utilized in the space sector. Actually, when you look at AI, it's anyway based on brain, and preferably the human brain, actually. The whole theory behind artificial intelligence is basically deep learning, is based on that. It even works for people. The easier, the simpler we communicate, the more effective we are. It's not about making long sentences. It's about being very precise what you want to communicate. And I also like your comment going into culture. It's very important. And I think we're all from different cultures here on this panel, if I'm not mistaken. One of the things is that you have to learn about cultures, but there are so many in the world. One of the most important cultures you have to learn about is your own culture. So start becoming more aware about your own culture. And the best way to explore it is with people from other cultures, because they will tell you, they will ask you like, why are you doing that? To give a simple example, I'm from the Netherlands. We have a very simple habit, or very silly habit actually, that if somebody has a birthday, like let's say your brother, if you go there, you actually say happy birthday to all the neighbors, the friends, and etc. It's a very silly habit. In Holland, I never found out, but when I got here, everybody was laughing at me when I did that. So it's kind of,
it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's true. But try to understand your own culture, because that will really help you what makes you unique to deal with other cultures. So thanks.
If you allow me to add to this also, David, I love it, man. I love it. Please personalize everything. We're not machines.
Yeah.
When you send email, that's how you become effective. When you send email, if I receive an email that says warm greetings, happy to reach you, personalize everything, and don't assume the worst in people. When you communicate with someone, even if you disagree, go as a human being to him. Try to understand him at a personal level with a personalized touch. That's what makes organizations today agile and self-organizing organizations. We're transforming today. Huge companies like Google and others, they will be disassembled into thousands of companies soon. They've already divided themselves into 2 branches, and they will divide further, because structure itself doesn't represent a company. Processes themselves do not represent the company. It's that buffer of value that you have as a person, as a human being, as a breathing element in this organization is what defines value. So personalize it. Come to me with a smile. Come to me with whatever makes me happy. When you look at a rose, it gives you so much positive energy. I love this from the Indian culture. When you get the positive energy, you're there to become productive. You're already there. The state, going back to what Andreas was talking about, the state of mind. You push yourself to the right state of mind to become efficient, productive, and so on. Please personalize it, even with cultures that you don't understand. Like David said, I would ask him, why would you guys do it this way in the Netherlands? Oh, I love that. I might do it myself. So personalize it, even at the workplace. That's how you become a very effective communicator. Yep.
Right. Just a general announcement for all the attendees, because I am able to see some questions are coming regarding some other competition which happened. So result will be announced and will be communicated. I'm coming back to the discussion again. Mr. Andreas, I think this question you are the one of the best person to answer this thing, because you are leading the different human resource vertical. And somebody is asking how to incorporate the human ethics and morals in artificial intelligence in modern robotics. Because what is happening, it is my view, majority of the department in the process are actually slowly transforming towards the automation, and slowly the idea or the vision is to automate maximum what we can do up to the in an ethical way. But how to measure this ethics means it is a very difficult thing to measure it, and that is where the question is coming from.
Yeah, and it is, of course, a hot topic, and David and myself, we've kind of done a couple of projects that are utilizing artificial intelligence to evaluate performance or evaluate candidates, etc. And of course, I think this is one of the things that will bubble up more and more and more as more companies adopt this kind of technologies in HR, for example, right? So I do actually think David's a bigger expert than me on this, but I'll take my view and then I'll pass it on to him. But my view is that there's a couple of things, right? First is that the companies that are responsible for developing these sort of algorithms obviously need to be very careful in how they select and how they work up their program altogether from the very beginning. Do they have a diverse set of people doing it? Do they have people with different backgrounds? Do they have different people with different social statuses, etc.? I think that's kind of a key foundation here, right? I think the second one is, do the companies have the right level of governance and control over how they deploy these kind of solutions so that they are vetted again and tested by a number of different people to ensure that bias is taken out and to ensure that they are wider than just maybe looking at one specific kind of person as an example. That to me would be the second one. And the third one is I guess also more on the digital kind of theme around, are they able to iterate and learn from previous mistakes and do them better next time? I think that's probably what we're going to see, and how these companies and how these capabilities interact with their customers to sort of constantly improve and constantly make sure that they shave off any ethical issues or any kind of things that might cause offense to other people. But that's my kind of take on it. David, I'm pleading with you to save me.
No, very good. I just, I'm building actually more or less on what the previous speakers are saying. So just to kind of like for the students to keep something in mind, AI isn't mean. And if I translate it, analytics isn't mean by itself. It's like a car. A car is not mean by itself. It can be a great thing, but it can also kill people in the wrong hands. And we have seen that in Europe and in many other places. So AI, and the other thing is where you started with is like, people need to know where data is coming from. So when AI turns mean, it probably means that the data that was collected and the algorithms that have used that to learn, they have learned from the wrong source. Kind of like, and this is indeed like one of the big areas I think where we will see an increase in jobs is indeed around ethics and ethics related to data science, to data in general, and to how we apply it. I mean, we know, for example, that in the defense industry, there is a tremendous amount of AI being applied. I mean, we had this big exhibition in Abu Dhabi, IDEX. It's all about the ethical part and how do we deal with it. And it's a very difficult topic. It's definitely not something we can cover in the last 3 minutes of this beautiful session with very good panelists and very good attending students. But yes, it's definitely an area that will grow in importance. I'll leave it. There's only 2 minutes left, so let me pause.
I think the last question is before we go for the final closing of this session. I think one more. I'm just reading it out. I'm sure it's available on your chat window. So it is addressing many jobs these days in artificial intelligence and data science. Demand for the PhD. Does that mean PhD can offer the job in corporate as well, not limited to the academia? As per my understanding, because I come from the higher education background, so I will try to address it from the higher education background point of view. For the industry, I will leave it to the three worthy panelists, Mr. Alia, David, and Andres. So yes, on the academia, when you say about the PhD, yes, it has a different type of importance and requirement. So yes, it can contribute on the different dimension. As Mr. Andreas was saying, no, this question is very wide open to discuss. Even this particular statement is that way. We can discuss this particular statement for hours and hours. So when you talk about the higher education point of view, yes, we need to have the PhD for many research, funding, patents, and many other point of view. Yes, we need it. But the moment we talk about industry point of view, what I understand, what I have seen into the multiple organization, they have their own R&D department, and where they prefer to have the people who are coming with a very solid background of proven results, and where they want their people to contribute for something significant, which is aligned with the organization mission or vision, whatever they are aligned for. So for this corporate job, I will leave to Mr. Alian or Mr. Andreas to comment on this particular question which is there.
It's a good question. The challenge with you guys in young generations, that I don't want you to be overwhelmed with the term artificial intelligence. Forget about that term. I personally don't think it's used by itself correctly. What we're doing is machine learning, and doing machine learning by feeding observations and data. A huge amount of data, a huge amount of observations that will lead to an outcome. So to be able to work, you need to define the use case and the outcome if you want to work specifically on that. We did at Beta IT, we did deploy that in performance indicators. Now our KPIs are measured artificially, if I want to use that word, by monitoring behaviors over multiple years. So we say today if our project did perform well or not based on data that was fed. So there was a very specific use case. If you were there doing that research for me, I would have hired you. So it's specific, take it to that specific area. Machine learning, I won't use AI anymore. I don't want you to be attached emotionally so much, because AI is still, it's a long journey for us as humans to get there. But using machine learning, yes, it will be in everything we do. Business analytics, performance indicators, and everything, optimization, automation, repetitive work, so that you don't have to humans will not be overwhelmed by repetitive works. Yes, there is business there. David, please go ahead. Yeah.
No, I think you covered it very well, and it was also good to get to the point that the AI is a bit an overused term in terms of, you have to break it down. What is it actually? And in terms of, it's all about data, it's all about analytics, it's about machine learning, deep learning, these kind of elements. But I think that's perfect. Coming back to the question of PhD, I think a lot of technology companies now are less looking at titles and less looking even at master degrees, etc. Recently, I was on a panel with IBM, and they were looking less into that. That doesn't mean that it doesn't make sense to study. I think it's very important to study and to go deep and to learn something. But I think it's a little bit less, and that comes also to your point, like the applied science becomes almost more important than the fundamental science. Fundamental science, we still need that in order to get to new concepts. But when it really comes to the exponential growth, applied science is where we have to look at. So it's not a full answer to the PhD one. I don't want to discourage anyone to go for a PhD, but it's not the only way. That's what I want to say.
Okay, before we go for closing of the session, I will request Mr. Andreas for a very quick, short answer for the last question. Beyond this, we are not going to take any other question. And the last one is, again, it's a very wide-ended kind of question. What extent the AI will be replacing the job? A very quick and very short kind of comment, sir.
So my very short answer is, I don't think it will replace jobs. I think it will augment jobs, and I think it will change jobs, but I don't think it will replace jobs. I think that is my answer.
Perfectly fine. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining this wonderful session. And I remember, there is a very famous quote of Napoleon Bonaparte, and he said, "The leader is a dealer of hope." And when we see this technology, IoT, blockchain, augmented reality, these are the kind of technology which are actually a hope kind of thing, which can change the entire way, the way we communicate, the way we work, the way we are doing many things in the society. So having said this, I'm summarizing the very quick, because we have the students who are looking forward, what exactly they can take away from this discussion. So what I'm able to point out during the discussion, artificial intelligence can be very demanding, time to come, machine learning, data scientist, information security analyst, software engineer, of course, that is there, computer research scientist, data analyst, IT manager, data administrator. Mr. Alian quoted about the entrepreneurial skills. Mr. David was quoting continuously for the ethics, where we're talking about the Department of Psychology in the different capacity, working in the different universities. Mr. Andreas quoted about the different financial sectors, financial services, and the HR practices. So these are the certain things which will be required time to come. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much, Mr. Alian, Mr. David, Mr. Andreas, for giving your time to our students, to Amity. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Good luck, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, sir.